I gave this talk a long time ago, and it was very successful because, you know, people had a lot of questions about cholesterol. So let's just talk about fats and cholesterol for 1 second to clarify why fats and cholesterol are good for you. Well, they do a lot of things in your body. Brain function, hormonal function. They help to produce vitamin D. Have you noticed that we had an epidemic in this country of deficiency in vitamin D? It's because people are not eating enough fat and cholesterol. That's one. Fats, you know, transport vitamin A, E, K, D. They're the fat-soluble vitamins. So that's why a lot of people are deficient in those vitamins. A lot of people have very low sex drive these days. They don't enjoy sex anymore because they're not eating fat. So their hormone, the sex hormones and production function is dysregulated. Cell membrane protection protects the cells in our brain. She has gas, I'm sorry. People are gonna love, I have a dog in the room. I'll be watching this like, what did she just say? Cell membrane protection, production of bile, so you can break down, you know, fatty foods and so on. So there's a lot of amazing things about fats. I would just stop here. If you just told me, okay, these foods are good for brain function, hormonal function, I would say no more. I'm eating this. Okay? To clarify, when I say fats, healthy fats, I am talking about, I will send you guys notes, by the way, so if you don't want to make notes of everything and really listen, I'll send this, I'm going to email everybody with these notes.
Oh, okay.
I meant to do before, but it didn't happen. So to clarify what I mean by healthy fats, avocado, raw nuts, extra virgin olive oil, extra virgin or raw coconut oil, grass-fed butter, grass-fed and pasture-raised meats, and eggs. Those are the healthy fats. If you're not eating some of this food every single day and even in every single meal, I would highly encourage you to start eating this every day, okay? I changed my health, and you know, one of the reasons I brag on Facebook that I'm at 45 in the best shape I've ever been. I have more energy than I've ever been. Besides living an amazing life, that helps, being inspired gives me a lot of energy. But it's because I changed my diet about 3 years ago. I cut a lot of the carbohydrates, the sugar. You know, growing up in Brazil, it's all about desserts, breads, pies, you know, we very food centered. But luckily I grew up with, everything was homemade. So nobody was obese. But now in Brazil, nothing's homemade anymore. People, they're just living like here. Convenience, frozen food, fast food, right? So I was pretty carbohydrate driven. And I had a, you know, I was that skinny with always a belly. I had energy crashes. I had terrible cramps during my period. And I got rid of all that by eliminating a lot of carbohydrates and sugar and eating a lot of fat. I eat more fat than ever. And that's one of the reasons I feel much better. So let's break this down. Let's isolate and talk about cholesterol a little bit. Cholesterol has been a big subject of confusion. And there's a reason for the confusion. And if anybody's interested in really know history, like you want to some journalism, you want to like know back in the days what was happening in terms of research, this is the best book in the market, Good Calories, Bad Calories by Gary Taubes. He's a journalist. And it's like, it's dense, it's heavy, you need to love research. But he goes in deep details of what happened back in 1950s and 1960s when we had a lot of people researching, you know, heart disease. So when people are doing, a lot of people are doing research on heart disease, we had a group of people, I read in the 1950s saying sugar is bad. Sugar is what causes chronic disease. Sugar is really what's causing people to get sick and have heart disease. But then we had another group of people, specifically one guy named Ansel Keys, and he had some connections with people in the White House, just saying, and connections with people in the food industry, just saying. They were investing $250 million in research to find that fats are bad for you. So you ever have a case that, you know, you want to buy a silver BMW and then you start seeing silver BMWs everywhere, right? Kind of the same thing happens in research. This guy had the belief because he did a research in over 15 countries around the globe. And he wanted to prove his hypothesis that fats were the cause of heart disease. So he did a whole research, but let's say he manipulated the data a little bit, okay? So then he pulled out the 7 countries that had data that matched what he wanted to convince people of. There's a lot of money behind this research. At the same time, there are also people saying there's no proof, we can't prove that fat is what's causing heart disease, that it's cholesterol causing heart disease, it's sugar. But those guys were suppressed, and all of a sudden, I'm summarizing the story of course, all of a sudden, you know, they get people in the government, the National Institute of Health, FDA, everybody's saying, well, it's pretty clear that cholesterol is what's causing heart disease. And that's what the whole thing, you know, came, and there's magazines saying don't eat meat, don't eat butters, don't eat eggs, and people start replacing their nutrition, they start replacing their healthy meats and healthy eggs and butter for what? Margarine, you know, a lot of fake butters, and a lot of low-fat products that were injected with tons of sugar to keep the taste good, because you remove the fat, you remove the lard of food, you remove the oils, you're going to have to put something that makes it taste good. So low-fat industry grew. In the 70s and 80s, low-fat was the way to go. If you see a graph of chronic disease in this country, especially, but other countries as well, at the same time that we went into this low-fat craze, it was the same time that diabetes, heart disease, stroke, cancer, all these chronic diseases start skyrocketing as well. And funny enough, we've been seeing tons of mood disorders more than ever. Depression, anxiety, attention deficit disorder. Everybody's diagnosed with either anxiety these days, depression, or attention deficit disorder. Every child. So, so who is the culprit of all this, right? It's the sugar that we'll talk about. It's the sugar that already, the professors, the scientists are already telling us in the 1950s. So none of this information is really new. That's what I want you to know. This has been in books. You know, a lot of these books that are telling this whole story also, they were written in the 80s. So this whole information has been available, but not available to most of you, or even myself, who was not looking at the right place. I was also just reading magazines and kind of just following what my teachers were saying at school. So I believed it, right? So let's get this to practicality a little bit, so you can start to understand your blood test. Very general here. So when you look at cholesterol, we have, everybody talks about LDL, HDL, right? Low density, high density, and then you say you want to have a lot of high density and very low number on your low density, the fluffy stuff. Well, the problem is, and there's a big problem with this cholesterol test too, and I want to educate you on this, so when you go see your physician next time, you know, if you remember this information, but otherwise talk to me, I'll tell you what to ask for when you see your doctor, what tests you should be looking for. But basically, this is not cholesterol, and this is not cholesterol either. These are just what we call lipoproteins. They basically, the little car in our body that transports cholesterol. So that's the thing about our bodies, right? We have a lot of chemicals in our bodies, neurotransmitters, enzymes, you know, a lot of components to help us, but they need something to transport them, right? So that's what LDL and HDL are. They're simply transporters of cholesterol. They're not cholesterol itself, okay? So when you go to your test and you see these numbers, oh, cholesterol is high, and then, you know, what do? Is anybody taking statins here, so I know? Nobody.
I used to.
Good. Good that you're not taking anymore. So they see these numbers high, and what they're going to do? They're going to give you statins that is going to go and inhibit this enzyme in your liver, because cholesterol is made in the liver, in the brain. By the way, 60% of your brain's cholesterol. So if you have very low levels of cholesterol, you can have symptoms of depression, for example, or even shows like lead people to dementia because of very low levels of cholesterol in the brain. So very powerful brain function. So they see a high number, they're going to give you statins to inhibit the enzyme from producing cholesterol. Well, what happens when you stop producing cholesterol because you take a medication, your body is going to try to make even more. When you're not getting cholesterol from foods, your body, your liver specifically, is going to have to work very, very hard to produce cholesterol, which is a very intense and complex process for your body to produce cholesterol. So if we start talking about energy, things that your liver should be doing to help you to have energy, your liver is busy doing making cholesterol. So we don't want that. But basically, when you see these numbers high in the blood test, it means nothing. What you want to pay attention, if that number is too high, I shouldn't say it doesn't mean anything. It means one thing. You have some inflammation going on in your body, because cholesterol is an anti-inflammatory. It's a natural anti-inflammatory. So cholesterol is an amazing product that we make. So if you have inflammation in your body because you either you're super stressed, chronic stress for a long time, you're consuming a lot of sugar, you have an autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis and other inflammatory conditions, you might have high cholesterol because the cholesterol is trying to cut your inflammation down. So then the question needs to be to your doctor and to yourself, what is causing inflammation? And two things, are the major contributors to inflammation is diet, sugar, and chronic stress. And when I say chronic stress, it's that stress that you have for a long period of time. It's not a stress that I get from getting preparing for a presentation. Not the stress that you have because you have a test. Not the stress even that you might have for a whole month because, you open your business, whatever it is. So talk about chronic stress. I'm talking about because our bodies are so resilient that a month of stress is not going to kill you. But if you have that moderate to high stress for 1 year, for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and out of the blue you get sick. You didn't get sick out of the blue. Your body has been getting sick slowly. But you would just say, I'm sick when you have pain. Or you go see a doctor and they see crazy numbers on your blood test or something like that, right? So if we don't need to worry about LDL and HDL so much, unless it's super low or unless it's super high, what kind of tests we need to be asking, what we need to look at? So there is a type of cholesterol, because not all cholesterol is the same, or a type of LDL, that it's called LPA. It's a type of LDL that it's a particle that's very small and very dense. Like, think of, the BB gun little balls. That's the LPA we call. And we need to worry about the size of those particles and the amount. If you have a lot of those, it's concerning. If you could touch them, they're sticky, and they're the ones that are going to stick on the wall of your arteries. And they're the ones that are going to start creating inflammation in the artery that can lead to heart disease, okay? Or other chronic diseases. There are tests you can check for this. So there's a test called Berkeley test, and there's another test called lipoprotein particle profile test. Okay, I'll give you this on the notes, so don't worry. You can always call me if you're gonna go see your physician. I can tell you what those are. And I believe most insurance cover this type of test. But the sad thing is you need to ask your doctor for this. The doctor's not just gonna say, hey, this doesn't matter so much. Let's look at this, okay? When this matters too, besides I move forward, is the ratio with your triglycerides, okay? Triglycerides are basically fat that has been converted from excess sugar in your body. So when you eat a lot of sugar, does anybody understand here that sugar does become fat? Is that clear for everybody? Okay, good. Okay, so we don't need to go there. So what is the bad cholesterol? Cholesterol is great for us. It's what we do that can make a cholesterol bad for us. It's the oxidized LDL. Oxidized LDL is this stuff here, okay? What makes a cholesterol molecule to oxidize? So you must be familiar with the words antioxidants, right? You eat berries because they're antioxidants. You eat leafy greens. We want, the colorful foods, red, yellow, purple. They antioxidants. So they gonna help you to prevent oxidation in the body. So oxidation, in a nutshell, think of your body, it's all about chemical reactions. As I'm standing here, you're sitting there, there's tons of chemical reactions happening in the body. And in those chemical reactions, we get those loose, lonely oxygen, atom. And they're loose in the body, and they're looking to bind with something so they can, go and have their life and become something. And a lot of times they become something that is not good for us. So those are the components that create oxidation in the body. And what creates oxidation? Again, sugar and stress, chronic stress. Okay? So when you have a lot of sugar in your diet and stress combined, that's what's going to start binding with cholesterol molecules and cause the cholesterol to oxidize. So now you understand the difference that there's no bad cholesterol. Like you can eat eggs every single day in your life and eat meat every single day in your life, and that's a lot of cholesterol, but that's not going to cause you any disease, any malfunction, any imbalance. If you're eating all that and you're eating tons of sugar with that, if you're eating a pound of potato with your beef, then yes, that's going to make that cholesterol be bad for you, but not because cholesterol is bad for you. Does that make sense? Is everybody with me on this? Mm-hmm. Okay, it's what you do. It's your lifestyle that's going to make, you to change the nature of, we do by lifestyle, you change the nature of cholesterol, which is a raw, essential material for functioning. So the lesson here, don't avoid cholesterol foods. Eat your eggs every single day. Eat your beef. Don't be afraid. And eat the yolk. Makes me crazy. Those people just like, I want a 6-egg white omelet. It's like, why? Eat the whole thing, right? Because people are still afraid. Even though I say these things to my clients and I might share with you, again, we get programmed to believe in certain things. It might still be hard for you to go and eat 2 eggs tomorrow morning because you're like, well, I'll accept okay, but I don't know. So what I love to do every time I do video blogs or workshops like this, I'm not here to convince you to take my word, but get curious. Have this conversation with your doctor. Read about it. Read articles about it if you want to. But, this is all about empowering you to ask your doctor, hey, doc, why am I not doing this test? That's what I want. And the doctor might say, oh, you don't need that. No, I really want to know more. I want to know about these specific particles of cholesterol that I know are bad for me. I'm not worried about just the ADL and HDL. It's for you to take your power back. That's one of my goals here. Okay? So when we talk about preventing or causing the cause of heart disease, remember we're not just talking about heart disease, right? We talk about any chronic disease. We talk about diabetes, that they refer now as diabesity, because most people who are obese, they also have diabetes, and it's a huge problem, especially with children, right? We know how many children in this country are diabetic. Alzheimer's, you see a number of Alzheimer's growing so much in the last 10 years? Is the water? No, it's not the water. It's sugar. It's sugar. Alzheimer basically is an inflamed brain. So the areas of your brain that are responsible for memory, it starts to get inflamed. And keep in mind that any area in your body that becomes inflamed becomes inhibited. Like if you have inflammation on the knee, that inflammation on the nerves inhibits the muscles, the stabilizers of the muscles, to work and protect your knee. It's no different in other systems in the body, no different in your brain. If your brain is inflamed, you are very prone to mood disorders, including depression and anxiety, and more severe late in life Alzheimer's and dementia. It's a serious business. So what we do today counts how we're gonna feel, how we're gonna age, how we're gonna be feeling in our 60s, in our 70s, our 80s, okay? This is what we do today. The cool thing about when you have high inflammation levels, or let's say you have a lot of oxidation in your body, what we call, accelerated glycation end products, is like the age process. The cool thing, you can reverse it all as well, okay? You can't really, unless you're here already. If you're here already, mood disorders you can reverse. If you already got high stages of Alzheimer's and dementia, I'm not here to say you can reverse, but you can definitely slow down the process. If somebody already knows, oh my God, I'm having, like you start forgetting where your keys are, where your phone is, you start forgetting basic things every day, I'll start paying attention. Doesn't mean you have Alzheimer's, but it means your brain might be a little bit inflamed. So, this is also my hope to say, hey, start paying attention to those things and don't blame age. That's another message I want to share here. There's this, we like, everything is age now. And I'm so sick of like hearing people saying, oh, this hurts and I can't remember things and I'm aging. And these people are like 40, 45, even 50. So yes, there's some natural things that are going to happen with us aging, but let's stop blaming aging, because I have clients and I hear many cases of people in their 70s going to doctors and reversing cases of oxidation, inflammation in the body, okay? And feeling much better, feeling energetic and vital again. And, you might hear these days a lot how we have the power to change how our genes manifest, right? It's called epigenetics. I love it. It's a great time to be a health coach because, you can be programmed. If we did a genetic test, it might show that you might have Alzheimer's, diabetes, whatever is there, but doesn't mean you need to manifest those things ever. So in fact, I don't like those genetic tests, because what will do to our minds if all of a sudden we know that, oh my God, I might have Alzheimer's? It's better not to know. But the cool thing is, good and bad, by your lifestyle, you have the power to change your DNA. Because let's say, you have a lot of inflammation, oxidation going on in your body, that starts changing the health of your cells, your tissues, like membranes of your cells, muscle tissue, and also change the DNA. But the good thing is you can go both ways. You can make it great or you can make it bad. How are we doing so far? So, again, right, I said this earlier, drugs won't change the composition, the amount, the size of those little particles of oxidized cholesterol that I was talking about earlier. Statins won't do that, but nobody's talking about that, because then the pharmaceutical companies won't sell so much drugs, right? So then what do we do, right? It's like if you have a concern, if your husband or friend or anybody in your family is dealing with high cholesterol, is taking drugs, how can you educate this person? What do you do in terms of food? If drugs won't change that, so then the only thing that's going to change is lifestyle. And every time I say lifestyle, is your ability to manage your stress and your diet, and of course, exercise, right? You have to exercise. So foods I will say right away to avoid. We talked earlier about what are the good fats. So those fats are saturated fats, okay? So saturated fats was the big name that people said, don't eat saturated fats, okay? No. Eggs, meats are saturated fats. Coconut oil is saturated fat. What you want to avoid is something we call trans fats. Trans fats are basically modified fats, okay? They're not made in nature. They're not natural. They're being processed. So you find those trans fats in shortenings. So that's why I don't recommend store-bought desserts. If you really like sweet, you like your cakes, you like your desserts, make at home with good ingredients, with coconut oil, with good eggs. Make at home. Margarines and any of those fake butters, they're going to have trans fats. So I would avoid that as much as you can. Once in a while, you're going to have a dessert in a restaurant. It might have some of that. But if 90% of the time you're eating super healthy, then if you have that restaurant dessert that most likely will have some trans fats, I wouldn't stress so much. This is not about, oh my God, stop having fun. No. But I wouldn't have any of this foods at home. And if you do, I hope you throw it away tonight. Vegetable oils, especially when they're heated. Canola oil, okay? Peanut oil, any type of vegetable oil. It's not very healthy for you, okay? Those are the fats that they're oxidized already. And especially if you heat them up, they really become poison. So avoid those oils at all costs. Try to find replacements. Use butter, use olive oil, use coconut oil. Anytime I see a recipe that asks for oil, most of the recipes I take from paleo websites or grain or gluten-free websites, so they're usually pretty healthy sources. So you're gonna find the recipes that are already modified and they're using butter and coconut oil. They're not using any vegetable oil. So I love the paleo sites. And baking, paleo can be pretty delicious. Baking gluten-free is very delicious too. And most of all, high corn fructose syrup. This is everywhere. This is not news. Don't eat anything with this. But this is the trick, right? You can't say I'm not consuming high corn fructose syrup, but then you're eating cereal every day. But you never look at the ingredient number 1 or number 2 in your cereal. It's high corn fructose syrup. Be careful cereal. Be careful those cereal bars that you buy at the grocery store. Okay? A lot of desserts too, because it's cheap. When you buy like Safeway King Super cakes and pastries and stuff, they are using this. They're not cooking the good stuff. Coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil is too expensive. They're not going to use that. That's why they're so cheap. Stay away from that. Bake yourself. Make the good stuff. But this is poison. Just to clarify fructose. Fructose is the sugar in the fruits. But in that form, it's okay. It's not unhealthy for you. Unless you're pre-diabetic, then we have to be careful with sugar. Or you have a lot of inflammation in the body, we have to be careful even with how much fruit you eat. But let's consider you all super healthy here. This is processed fructose. It's different, okay? It's very different. And I'm going to stop here for a second and talk about... now I'm going to go on and I'm going to talk about calories in a second. So just to clarify, this is not the same format that you get in a piece of apple. This is processed, just like agave. Also, if you love your agave, I'm sorry. It's when it enters your body, it's no different than high corn fructose syrup. It's also modified sugar. It's not the pure agave that you find in nature. It's already processed. Okay? So I will eliminate, if I go to your house, some clients that say, hey, I can come to your house and clean your kitchen, cabinet. They never let me do it. I don't know why. Cereals, sugar, yogurts. Be careful yogurts, guys. Yogurt, if you're not buy some, plain or, even the vanilla ones, they have a lot of sugar. So be careful with the kind of yogurt you buy. I will eliminate agave, artificial sweeteners, big time. It triggers your body in the exact same way as sugar does. So don't poison yourself with artificial sweetener, please. Okay, canola oil, refined flours. Wheat. Refined flours in general that you find in pastas, okay, pizzas. I'm not saying don't eat pasta, don't eat pizza. I'm not here to say that. But if you do, just make a good choice. Okay? Don't just buy the cheap stuff at the grocery store that's going to come with the lowest quality of carbohydrate. And then replace things with fats and proteins. Question about cholesterol so far?
Yes. Just the triglycerides that you mentioned. How do they relate to this?
How do they relate to this? Yeah. If you eat a lot of sugar, the sugar enters the body, goes in a process through your liver, and any sugar is not utilized right away or in a few hours, it's going to be transformed in triglycerides. So basically when you do your blood test and they show the ratio between your triglycerides and your cholesterol, if that ratio is too high, it's a concern. All that means is that you're consuming too much sugar. So even though triglycerides is a fat cell, it's fat, but
From sugar.
it came from sugar. It didn't come from your eggs or your beef. So if your level of triglycerides is very high, I would, evaluate the diet and go in a major sugar and refined carbohydrates cut down. Okay? When I say refined carbohydrates, I'm talking about breads, pastas, cereals, every single type of dessert. Okay? If this is a concern for you, that's where you go. That you start cutting those things in half, eliminate, replace, eliminate and replace. That's why I wrote these words together here. You never want to eliminate something from your diet that you're consuming a lot and not replaced by anything. Because then you're going to create another stress in your body. Then you're going to create a calorie deficit. And we're going to talk about calories next. So it's all about take something out of your diet and replace with something. Now I want to talk about food and calories. So I wanted to start thinking about, there's another myth I'm going to break here. If you're still counting calories because you want to lose weight, stop it now, okay? Just because food is information, we know now that 100 calories that you're consuming from these organic apples, let's say you get 100 calories of organic apples in my raw nuts there. And then Pizza Hut delivers here. Delicious, disgusting. That was my first job in the United States when I didn't speak English. I made a lot of those deep dish pizzas. And I ate them too. Talk about trans fats, and vegetable oils, terrible. So if you consume 100 calories from a slice of pizza, Pizza Hut, and 100 calories from my nuts and the apples here, okay? Well, they're 100 calories. And we're made to believe that it's at the same calories are calories. The Weight Watcher is still based on points. That is just calories per calories. Well, no, because when you eat that food, the function is going to be completely different. When you eat the nuts and the apple, you're getting the fiber, you're getting the vitamins, you're getting the fats. So every single calorie of those nuts and the apple is going to be used by your body. Nothing's going to sit and become fat in that, unless you're eating 10 pounds a day. Let's not get carried away here, okay? Calories are different. And to prove that, think that, a handful of almonds might be 100 calories. And you start eating 100, a handful of almonds every single day. Well, if we do math here, they say it takes about 3,500 calories to gain 1 pound of fat. Remember, we all learned that in biology class or, one of those classes. Well, if that was after 10 or 20 years eating that, how fat would I be or you would be? It doesn't work like that. It's not about the calories, it's about the function of the food. It's what the food is doing, what the food is delivering when it enters your body. When you eat something that your body doesn't recognize, such as trans fats because it's processed food your body doesn't recognize, or genetically modified foods your body doesn't recognize, you get fat. You get sick and fat if you eat a lot of those foods, okay? Anything that your digestive system cannot recognize, and when I say digestion, think about digestion being the process of breaking the food down in your stomach by the enzymes and by the acid in your stomach. So you break down. So when you break down the food, let's assume you have all the enzymes that you need, everything you need, you break down the food. Then the food is going to go to your small intestine where absorption starts to happen. That's when the magic happens, that the intestine starts to put the vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids, you know, the fats that you need for your brain. And let's say you don't have any food sensitivity, any food allergy, you're going to absorb everything beautifully. And then the last stage, get rid of the residue, eliminate. So digestion is break down the food, absorption, and elimination. And I mention this because let's say you're not breaking down something well because it's either genetic modified food or you might have sensitivity to that food. So gluten, for example, I have sensitivity, not major, but enough to notice. So when you have food sensitivity, something is going to happen in that small intestine area that you're not going to absorb the food so well. Your body kind of doesn't know what to do with the food. So you start kind of accumulating the food. So you might have signs of food sensitivity or food allergy, or you might just start getting fat and you don't know why. So I'm saying this because if you have food sensitivity and you're not aware and you try everything to lose weight and you're not losing weight, you want to look at food sensitivity issues, just to keep in the back of the mind, okay? So that's digestion. Really want to leave here, understand that food is information, it's not just a calorie, okay? So I'll stop here for like a 3-minute break so you can stand up, get some snacks.